haven't had my son, and it just gave me a sense of like wanting to see what can we do in preschool that will really help students when they get to Algebra 1 and be successful. So with that being said, I talk a little about the story. So meet Sahad. This is my little one. He is 2 years old, and when Sahad turned 18 months, I had to return to work, and my husband was working already, so we had to look for preschool. We had to look for school or look for childcare, like most Americans, and it was a very daunting and a very hard experience for my family because we live in Harlem and we are very proud of our community and love our community, but it felt like the preschool process and looking for a preschool just became like this very taxing survival of the fittest. You have to like be in the in crowd to know. And having gone through that and really just not having a safe space for my son, it really was jarring for our family. And it made me start to think about our children and just the experience of their learning and why do they have to go far or go to schools that are not represented and they don't have people that look like them. And just thinking about their experience as children and what learning has always felt like them and the history of education for Black children, and thinking about my work in public schools in New York City and this idea of the school to prison like pipeline and the lack of resources, and just seeing it within my experience that there were no great preschools in my community for my child, literally within a 10 to 20 block radius of walking in my neighborhood, right? So there were schools, but again, were they quality, equitable schools? And that brings me to a quaint preschool in Harlem. So this is Concrete Life Experiences. And like I said, my experience of looking for a preschool in Harlem was so hard. And I remember going to the library one day and talking to the director. And she's like, go to the school across the street and see if they have an opening for you. And I walked into this school and I met Ms. B, and it was a great, welcoming, warm place. It felt safe. It felt kind. Um, and she said, this is my preschool and this is how much I charge. And I was like, I cannot afford that. We cannot afford that. My family cannot afford that. And she was like, it's all good. What can you afford? And I was like, in addition to that, I can afford this, but I can also offer some services. I'm a coach. I work in secondary education. I don't know anything about preschool, but I'd be more than happy to work with your teachers and learn. And that interaction and just having my son be at that preschool is what has really birthed this beautiful, what I believe is magic, that has been the past couple months working with Ms. B and working with her school in Harlem. And it got me thinking, what does equitable learning entail and who is deserving of it? That's really the question. So I think that who do we say is deserving of great learning? How do we provide resources to people? And when people are marginalized and disenfranchised, how do we use the resources and the people that we have to still give children a quality learning experience? So I'd be remiss to not talk about my current work and how I got here. So it's a plus that I'm a mom that was in the education field to have my son at this preschool. So I work with a company called Metamorphosis Teaching and Learning Communities, and I'm a content coach. And my work has always been around like workshops, coaching, and learning communities. That's really what I do in schools and really helping teachers develop their content knowledge and pedagogy around teaching children mathematics. And this is something that I've been passionate about and I've done for the past couple of years, and which is what has led me to actually take the class because I got into this on a whim, and I wanted to get a little more learning and really get sharpen my toolbox as an instructional coach. And I wanted to take the work that I do as a coach and the work that I do and what I was learning in my instructional coaching class with you and the students that were there to kind of think about what would it be like if I was able to build a preschool program around the 3 C's for equitable learning, this idea of content, culture, and community. And this was the initial plan that I started to just think about. And you'll notice that the content was really about block time. Culture was around life skill and choice time. And this is something Ms. B had really expressed that she really wanted to keep life skill and community skills. Like that was something she really wanted. And then circle time. So I kept the original. So it shifted a little. It's no longer a circle time, but that was like kind of the beginning of like, okay, what would this look like in terms of taking the 3 C's for equitable learning and blending it into a preschool program? And before I started to do this, I really wanted to ground my work around, something that would be realistic. And I thought about improvement science and this idea of like applicable, small, measurable individual changes. I knew that it was just me. I didn't have a team. I don't have a lot of people. So it's like, what can I do and how fast can I do it? And what little changes can I make to really shift this school's educational problems settings to really get to the root cause of the problem. So I really thought about it in this way, like the children are at the center. So I really need to think about the teachers admin, and parents, and really start to use that will skill matrix of like, where do people fall and why? But that really keeping kids at the end. Like the goal is that children are learning and children are successful. So my first phase was my action plan, which really started in March, and I've included the artifacts in the link in here that you have. So please feel free to just take a look at it. I'll dive into some, but it's a lot, so I don't want to like, have this video be too long. So the first thing I did was building relationships and gather data. That was really my focus. And I started off with informal conversations. I had a ton of informal conversations with people. I talked to every and anybody within like a 20-block radius of that school. I was talking to people. I also did a lot of things around like informal meetings and conversations with the director. I did eventually have like an official meeting with her. I think in either March or April we had our meeting. I requested lesson plans. She actually just reminded me of that recently. I like would see what teachers were doing outside their door. I would have informal conversations with them. I would ask them like what they were thinking, why they made those choices. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, my son's not in your class yet, but I'm excited for him to come learn with you. I asked for their lesson plans. And then I would talk to the director about it. I would say, oh, I looked at Miss O's lesson plan and she was talking about vehicles. And I loved how she was thinking about math in this way. And just like very informal, getting to know people. And from that, we were able to start vision mapping. So I would talk to people, I would add things and start to think about how does the 3Cs connect to this community? Like I needed to know the people that I was actually going to be working and building this for. I also did a lot of independent learning. I took some time. I read Choice Time, the book Choice Time. I also did some training around Cox Campus Learning. I did some work around the national, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but the National Association for Early Education. I took some training with them. I did some training with the Erickson Institute. I did a ton of work. We went to a block training program. I invited Ms. B to the block training with me. So she and I went to a training to watch block play and we experienced it ourselves. I actually have a video that we'll show. We did a ton of school visits. I went to different schools to observe how things were worked. I tried to observe Choice Time and some work around the book. I took a deep dive into the creative curriculum. I met with somebody who built a school in China around the creative curriculum and kind of picked their brain around that. And I did a lot of community building. I found a park in the neighborhood that was like a block away from the school that wasn't really utilized. I got to talk to the person that works at the park, and she was like, you can use it. So now that's like a private park. Because the other park was like kind of like used by multiple schools. So now the school has their own private park for outdoor play. I talked to the fire station in the community for the kids to be able to go visit. I talked to a baker. So I was just engaging people in the community and telling them about the preschool and just having conversations. So like that was really just like my goal, to just talk to people and just see what resources were in the community that we could use, because again, we don't have money. So it's a very like under-resourced, underserved preschool. So kind of like, how do we use what we have to make the best of what we can? And this was the blocks. This was the block. Oh, so the video's not letting. Oh, perfect. There we go. And so this was the blocks play workshop, and this was the only video I took. Because again, I was in the moment and not really thinking to take content and data with this work. But we built the school. We built the school, and then you'll see at the end, if you watch it again, there is a little extra room, and that was supposed to be our block play room, and you'll see the Learning Hamlet on there. So we kind of talked about that in our workshop and why we were there and why we wanted to learn. So that was kind of our vision map, and we were like, this is what we want. We don't know what it looks like yet, but we're learning and building. And then the next phase was really targeted goals and implementation. And this really started to happen around like really consistent leadership meetings. I met with Ms. B consistently. I started to have some teacher observations, very informal. I wouldn't go in there like saying, I'm coming to observe you. And then I really started to do community partnerships. I was really like actively reaching out to what can we bring to the school that would really enhance experiences, because again, we learned that the Blocks program requires students to have really rich experiences so they can come back and start to talk about it and build. That's really what is the genesis of the program. So we were able to build our scope and sequence. I may look up the scope and sequence on this, but it's really extended. It's extensive. So we were able to start to build out the scope and sequence. So we built out the entire year's curriculum, which included math learning work, life skill learning work, our community partnerships, Storytime Spectacular, where we'll have somebody from the community come in. Each month has a theme that is very dedicated and intentional, which is attached to the trips and which is attached to Storytime. So everything is connected in the month. So kids are really immersed in the learning. We also were able to get a library learning partnership um, with the students and teachers. And our goal is to have teachers observe the librarians while they're doing the workshop and really tying that to our professional development. What are you learning? What are you seeing? How are the librarians? What language are they using? And the reason behind this is because I am not, again, this is voluntary. I'm volunteering my time and I'm not able to be there because I do have a full-time job. So when I'm not there, I'm looking for what are the outside resources and learning partnerships that these are the teachers that CLE can continue to develop their teaching skills and pedagogy. And librarians offer that, and that's something we want in our community to keep. We also have a partnership with, we're trying to secure a partnership. We're working on it. We're at the last stage to get interns that will be working at our school. We've hired one counselor that works with Columbia University that will be overseeing the interns and to offer play therapy. So we want all of our students, and it may not be one-to-one, maybe we have it as group, but to offer play therapy. Again, another opportunity for our teachers to see another form of teaching, learning, and also because we don't have resources, we don't have a lot of people to kind of use our interns as a support for the teacher. So they get some time off to plan, they get some time off to meet with a coach and reflect on their work. We also were able to have like 2 collaborative meetings. I've also included and linked the agenda and the workshops for those meetings. And it really was about culture building and information gathering and just really how to streamline them and think of their structures. And our third phase is really the implementation and support and what the school year will look like, and thinking more about community investment, our partnerships, and really action plan and meetings. And that comes from our Learning Institute. So we are having a Learning Institute this summer. We tried in the beginning, we tried to have a 3-day Learning Institute last week. But again, just being very transparent, we had one for the first day, but then the last 2 days, teachers didn't show up. So there's some issues. So again, this is the reality of what we're doing. This is like mandate. We can't mandate this. We can't pay teachers for extra time because we don't have the money. So we're trying to learn ebb and flows of how we can really get people learning, but still respecting their work time. I'm also thinking about block play for parent partnerships. So hosting block play programs for parents to come and play with their kids and just give them a space to learn and see if we can bring some outside partners that come and like work with parents during this time. For our data collection, I learned from the Cox campus about a joint action plan. So we are going to slowly take our time. So we're not going to rush. We're just going to use a joint action plan to plan together. What does story time look like in our school? What does block time look like in our school? And really plan together. We're all agreeing to do it because we have our monthly meetings. So that's what we're really going to use the joint action plan to do. And then we're also thinking about sustainability. I would love for the teachers to go to a blocks play workshop at Bank Street, but we can't afford it. It was $425 and we paid out of pocket for it. But again, we don't have funding. We don't know how to secure funding. We're looking for partnerships. And it's not always about money, right? Sometimes it's really about, are there people that can help you and give you tools and give you resources that you need to be better? Another thing that I'm looking to do for sustainability, because I believe in respecting people, is creating a collaborative learning educators program, so CLE, because that's their school, where I'm going to ask 4 teachers to step up and kind of take lead around the content work, parent partnerships, student life. So those teachers will be working closely with me again to be able to turnkey this for sustainability, because again, I don't work at this school. I'm only offering the time that I have. So really having them. So I've offered to give the 4 teachers a $500 stipend for the school year. It's all I can afford. I have to go work for it and pay for it, but that's what I'm going to offer for sustainability until we can hopefully find some more money to pay teachers. And lastly, I just really want to create shift the learning culture. I want to bring joy for learning. I want to bring joy to a community of Black children to learn math. And I want the teachers to feel like empowered and learning and have fun. And we have all these crazy activities for our kids, and the community is involved, and our kids are laughing and they're going on trips and they are seeing the world, and the world is what they are learning. So that's really the goal for this project.